And things are hotting up between Iran and Israel, with the United States providing some breaking news right now. The US Central Command says its forces have now destroyed 2 Iran-backed Houthi vessels in the Red Sea over the past 24 hours. 2 Houthi ships belonging to the Houthi rebels backed by Iran from Yemen have been destroyed by the US Navy in the last 24 hours. This is a big escalation. The US Central Command says the vessels presented a clear and imminent threat to US and coalition forces. Remember, all of this taking place in the backdrop of Iran's expected attack on Israel. And now you have an escalation where US forces have destroyed 2 Iran-backed Houthi warships in the Red Sea. Gaurav Sawant live with us. Gaurav, 2 ships destroyed in the Red Sea, coming in the wake of nearly constant attacks from Houthi rebels directed at Iran. What does this mean? What could this lead to?
Shiv, the Red Sea is red hot even as we speak. The United States has destroyed 2 vessels that the US says pose clear and imminent danger to US vessels in the region. You recall that the United States is sending an additional a warship, a nuclear-powered land attack submarine. The USS Georgia is being sent there. Theodore Roosevelt, the aircraft carrier, is already in the region. Abraham Lincoln is being sent there. And these are carrier strike groups. 1 warship with more than 100 fighter jets and helicopters and L-int aircraft comes with another flotilla. So they have their destroyers, their frigates, their submarines, their tankers. So that's the kind of a war fighting machine that the US has in this region. 2 of them and perhaps additional forces also being mobilized. And here you had 2 Houthi rebel ships, according to the United States, that was coming eerily close to the US warships. And it's not coming very close to the main, the main warship, which is the aircraft carrier. No one is allowed to come close to the aircraft carrier, and all ships spread out. So anyone that comes into their range where it could pose a threat, Iran, as you very well know, has also said that it will be sending some warships in this region to ensure that its assets and its interests are not threatened. So this is where the situation becomes extremely, extremely grim in the Red Sea. And there are, while there are efforts for peace talks, everyone is prepared for conflict.
Okay, everyone's prepared for conflict. There appears to be an incremental escalation. That direct attack from Iran hasn't happened just yet. Is it going to happen in the next few hours, next few days? Everything seems uncertain and on tenterhooks at this time. Gaurav, stay with me. We've got some more breaking news from the region. This is big. Hamas, the group that had triggered this fresh cycle of violence in October 7th last year, has opted out of the Gaza ceasefire talks. The talks to be held in Doha, in Qatar tomorrow. Hamas has pulled out. The US is still hopeful of forward movement towards a truce. The world is urging Iran not to attack Israel. Indirect talks to go ahead in Doha, Qatar. But Hamas has apparently opted out of the Gaza ceasefire talks. Gaurav, what does this mean?
This means that the situation is extremely, extremely grim. So let's look at it 3 sides. America is pushing for this dialogue. America is pushing Iran not to attack Israel till the time there's an outcome of these peace talks. That's point 1. Britain is doing that. France is doing that. Several countries in West Asia, they're putting pressure on Iran not to attack Israel till the time there's an outcome on this. That's point 1. Point 2. Hamas has said it will not attend these peace talks. At the same time, Hamas has left one little window open, saying we are already committed to peace talks as agreed to under the United Nations Security Council resolution. There's already a peace plan which is in place. Let that existing peace plan be implemented. That is what Hamas now under Yahya Sinwar is saying. Remember, he's a hardliner. Ismail Haniyeh, who was open to some kind of negotiations according to the West, not according to Israel, because Israel says there is no difference between an Ismail Haniyeh and a Yahya Sinwar. They are both equally bad. One
Yes.
has been neutralized, the other is walking dead, is what Israeli officials have also told us. But they've left that one window open. Implement the old peace talks and we will then ensure that things move forward. Israel is sending a delegation to Doha. That is why it becomes indirect talks, because whatever is decided in these peace talks will then be communicated both to Hamas and to Iran. Iran has also apparently told officials, and this is also information that's filtering out from the region, in case there is a ceasefire agreement that is implemented, it may not target Israel for now. So, there are many, many ifs and buts, but all eyes on that one little window that may bring peace tomorrow when talks happen in Doha, Qatar.
Let's hope for that small window. Sometimes these things can be game changers. Hamas pulling out, like Gaurav said, makes things very, very precarious about what kind of efficacy these ceasefire talks will take place. But our eyes will be trained on Doha to see whether this small window of hope actually permits some kind of a de-escalation. Gaurav, keep tracking that story. Thanks very much for joining us with that input. Remember, the Iran-Israel conflict is going to be something that we take very, very seriously in our coverage here on India Today. We'll have boots on the ground covering the story very, very soon, and we'll keep you updated on that. Shifting focus back to countryside, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has hit out at the BJP's political rivals, the Congress and the opposition bloc, for what he says are selective silence on attacks on Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh. He's called them pseudo-liberals. He's blamed it on vote bank politics of the Congress and the opposition bloc. The Chief Minister of UP was speaking on the horrors of partition and insisted what happened during partition was being repeated in Bangladesh and Pakistan with the systematic targeting of minorities.
उस समय 10 लाख हिंदू एक साथ काटे गए थे, हिंदू सिख सभी थे, एक साथ काटे गए थे। उसी प्रकार की त्रासदी का दृश्य आज भी हम सबके सामने है।
Strong words from Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath recounting horrors of partition. 10 lakh Hindus and Sikhs were massacred during partition that Yogi Adityanath blamed on vested political interest that sacrificed 1 million lives at the altar of political gains.
एन केन प्रकारेण सत्ता प्राप्त होनी चाहिए, इसके लिए चाहे देश को ही दांव पे क्यों न लगाना पड़े, और यही तो हुआ। यही 1947 में भी हुआ और 1947 के बाद भी लगातार यही हो रहा है। जब भी इन लोगों के हाथों में सत्ता आई, इन्होंने देश की कीमत पर राजनीति की।
Yogi Adityanath compared the targeting of Hindus in Bangladesh today to a repeat of the horrors of partition, blaming the same mindset for the killing of Hindus, Buddhists and other minorities, and the targeting of their temples, homes and businesses. He insisted division of the country on religious lines was alien to the ethos and culture of the region, and Pakistan would either merge with India or fail to exist as an entity.
वही तो पूर्वी पाकिस्तान कहा जाने वाला आज का बांग्लादेश में वही तो हो रहा है। उस समय 10 लाख हिंदू एक साथ काटे गए थे, हिंदू सिख सभी थे, एक साथ काटे गए थे। और आज भी वही आगजनी, वही तोड़फोड़, वही लूटपाट, बहन और बेटियों के साथ वही अत्याचार, उसी प्रकार की त्रासदी का दृश्य आज भी हम सबके सामने है।
Speaking in Lucknow on the eve of the Independence Day, the Chief Minister blamed vested political interest and vote bank politics behind the silence of political parties and some intellectuals, even today, at the atrocities against minorities, both in Bangladesh and in Pakistan.
1.5 करोड़ हिंदू किस तरीके से बांग्लादेश के अंदर आज चिल्ला चिल्ला करके अपने आप को, अपनी अस्मिता को बचाने के लिए गुहार लगा रहे हैं, और दुनिया के मुंह सिले हुए हैं। भारत के अंदर भी इनके मुंह सिले हुए, एक भी शब्द इनका नहीं निकल रहा है, क्योंकि उनको भय है कि अगर इन निरीह कमजोर लोगों के इस पक्ष में इन्होंने आवाज निकाली तो इनका वोट बैंक खिसक जाएगा।
He warned of a repeat of the horrors if lessons are not learnt from mistakes of the past. He blamed the opposition India Alliance bloc in general and the Congress in particular for the rise of radical Islamist terror from partition to the current situation in Bangladesh. Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, the situation has calmed down a little bit, but continues to remain grim in Bangladesh. And India Today, remember, is the only channel on ground giving you uncensored updates from our neighboring country. Not like the Western press, which is giving you a selective look at what is happening. It's denying attacks on minorities in Bangladesh, making it look like this uprising and this toppling of a democratically elected government is some kind of democratic process. Watch these exclusive reports by the only reporter reporting everything that he's seeing in Dhaka and beyond. Ashutosh Mishra.
There is no end to the protest on the streets in the capital Dhaka, demanding safety and justice for the Hindus after the atrocities triggered from 5th of August across the country. In Dhaka, right outside the residence of Mohammad Yunus, the chief advisor of the interim government, the protest by the Hindu community breaks out right outside his residence, which is heavily being guarded by the armored vehicles of Bangladesh Army and a huge deployment of armed forces. This is the residence of Dr. Yunus, the official guest house where he holds the cabinet meeting and a crucial meeting. Today he met the delegation of the Hindu community, and right outside the residence of protest breaks out by the Sanatan Adhikar Manch. These are the people raising the slogans of "We are Bengali," ensure safety of Hindus. Interestingly, at this protest, the banners and the posters that they are carrying out has also the picture of Ayodhya's Ram Mandir in this protest. And the government, while assures the Hindus and minorities will be protected, here seems the assurance is not going to be enough until the actions are being taken. Right outside the chief advisor's residence in Dhaka, this is Ashutosh Mishra for India Today. After midnight, with the baton, danda, lathis, the self-defense force of Bangladesh in different localities, armed with the lathis and danda, take charge on the street to protect their territory, their areas. Every vehicle that passes through either frisked, searched, and unknown people are asked about their identities. Any suspicious activities could face a harsh reaction from these young volunteers of Bangladesh. Because of the attacks on the minorities, there is another fear that perhaps it could escalate, and now the self-defense force has been prepared almost in every areas with these kind of dandas and the whistle. So vehicles and the strangers, those who pass through, are always checked about their identities. This is what has changed in Bangladesh.